Hi, everyone. My name's Kirsty Nunez, and I'd like to share some of my recent experiences on Crete, which is the largest Greek island, and it's also pronounced Creta. And I just found it to be a very magical place to visit. What I loved about Crete were the ancient civilizations that you can visit. You, of course, in most cases, have to use your imagination about what the civilizations were like, but many of them are situated in very pristine, beautiful beach areas, by the water. Not all of them, but many of them are. I also love the antiquities, the museums that they have. There's beautiful beaches all around Crete. And stunning on the eastern end of the island. There's some really stunning views that, in my mind, kind of rivaled some of the views that you get from Santorini. They also have an interior mountainous area, and I'll talk a little bit more about what you can find there. And the Greek Cretans are just really lovely, friendly people. The food on Crete is just absolutely amazing. And for those of you who like shopping when you're traveling, as do I, there's fantastic shopping, and the prices are just not that high in Greece. So one thing that I can advise you is that it's important to rent a car because this is a big island. I'm guessing it might take to drive from the westernmost point to the easternmost point, it might take 5 or 6 hours. I haven't actually looked that up. But what I did was I stayed most of my time on the western side of the island. That was primarily driven by the fact that I found a really nice Airbnb down there. But I now realize that most of the activity and the interesting sites are probably on the eastern end of the island. So I kind of wish I had reversed what I did, because I spent most of my time in the west, and then just about a third of my time, I was there for 10 days, about a third of my time in the east. I would flip that and spend more time in the east and a little bit less time in the west. But I still think the west is a great place to visit. So do rent a car if you go to Crete. I can tell you that the airport where you land is a bit of a shock. It's not air conditioned, and I think they're building a new one, but it's not air conditioned, and it's just full of people. It's really crowded. It's just a bit crazy. But once you get out of the airport, it's actually a very good experience. So with the car rental places were right across the road. We just walked straight across the road and rented a car. So that was easy. And then driving in on Crete was also not too difficult. They have one highway that goes from east-west, which is very easy to drive on. There's some kind of an odd situation. It is a 2-lane highway, but they have sort of an extra lane on the right-hand side when you're driving that slower cars drive in, but it's clearly the side of the road. It's not actually a part of the road, but cars tend to drive over there if they're driving slowly, so the faster cars can overtake them. That was a little odd, but we did drive on that side of the road because there are some people who like to drive much faster than I wanted to drive. So there are 3 major cities on Crete, and I'm going to use my pronunciation expert here in the form of Google to help me pronounce the names of these cities. So the editor may want to edit out these pronunciations. But the largest city on the island, I guess it's on the island, isn't it, is this one, and it's pronounced Heraklion. So the largest island on Crete is Heraklion. And that's also where the airport is. It's not spelled as it sounds. It's actually spelled Irakleio. But it's a great city, interesting city. It is a big city. But some of the fun things that were there were the Archaeological Museum there is just fantastic. It's so much better than the equivalent museum in Athens. So much better. It's really, everything's really well preserved and well presented. I'm told that in the museum itself, it only represents about 10% of what they actually have and they've discovered, because they're constantly discovering all these fantastic antiquities in Crete. But anyway, that museum was absolutely fabulous. The old town there was also great. It was fun to visit there. We actually had some really good meals there too, because the food is just lovely on Crete. The next biggest city is called Chania, and Chania is spelled Chania, and that's on the western end. And so we did spend quite a bit, or I spent quite a bit of time there, going shopping and going to restaurants and visiting some of the old parts of the city there. That's a lovely little city, and these cities are all set on the water, of course. And the third largest city is called, let me just make sure I get this for you. You might want to edit this part out too. It's, bear with me, sorry. I'm going to find the pronunciation of this. Chania. Okay, here we go. The third biggest city is spelled Rethymno, and that is pronounced so the third biggest city is Rethymno, and it is it's also a really lovely and interesting city. We toured the Venetian fortress there, and we looked at the municipal gardens. We visited the fountain and looked at just a whole bunch of things there. The waterfront is absolutely lovely there. And again, they have an ancient or old part of the city, which is delightful to visit. So these are some of the larger cities. I didn't stay in any of these large cities, although it really looked like Chania would be kind of a cool place to stay, because they had lots of little boutique hotels in the old part of the city. So, you could look at that if you wanted to stay in one of these cities. So let's get back to the west. On the western part of the island, they have this fantastic gorge, which is spelled Samaria, gorge. Certainly not pronounced that way, so that is pronounced Samaria Gorge. And it was a nice drive from the location in the west that we were staying. And you go up into the mountains, which are in the interior of Crete. We didn't have time to hike the gorge, but you can hike from the top of the gorge all the way down to the beach. I probably wouldn't try to do it both ways, but it would be very cool, I think, to hike down to the beach and enjoy the gorge. That was really lovely. On our way to the gorge, we stopped at the Botanical Garden of Crete, and that is really nice. It has a beautiful but hilly, a beautiful garden showing you all sorts of flora from Crete, and it has a nice restaurant and a very nice view. So that was great fun to visit there. So we went to, when we stayed on the eastern end of Crete, we stayed at a place that was really, really close to an ancient site called Malia, which is just this really interesting ancient site. It was actually walking distance from our resort that we stayed at, and I found it really fascinating. I like to try and imagine what it might have been like to live in a place like that. So really worth a visit, and talking to some of the people there about what they found on the site. All the antiquities that they had found there have been put into the archaeological museum that I mentioned. There is also an archaeological museum in Chania, which is very small, but very well done and very much worth a visit if you get a chance to go. And then the last place I want to mention in this recording is this, there's an ancient site that has actually been developed so that you can get some idea of what it might have been like to live there. Unfortunately, I think the people who developed it used quite a lot of license to inject their own opinion about what that place might have actually been like. But what we did, which was really fun, and I've done this before when traveling, is we hired a guide, and it turned out this guy he and his wife have a business that, and they're both archaeologists, and they show tourists and do these various sites, and they can do, you know, as many hours as you would like to do with them. So we learned an awful lot from this guy. So the name of the place, it is spelled Knossos, and oh, sorry, okay, I'm just getting the pronunciation. Knossos. And it's pronounced in a very different way too. So Knossos, and it's ancient Knossos, so silent K. So ancient Knossos is a really great place to visit, and if you can go with a guide and book them in advance, it's very well worth it, because they can tell you so much about the area, and they also do other tours. What I used when I was traveling on Crete was the DK Eyewitness book, Top 10 Crete, and it's really small, so it was lightweight to take on my travels. And boy, did I use this book. I mean, we really made lots of decisions about where we were going to go, where we were going to eat, where we were going to stay, what beaches we should visit, what you know, tours we should do on boats around the island and all that sort of thing. So it's a fantastic little book. I think I'm going to try and get some of these top 10 for other tours that I do. So that's it. And you're most welcome to reach out to me if you ever have any questions about Crete. Thank you.